Most places try to be consistent. Climate stays predictable. Cities expand outward. Land is shaped to feel manageable. Morocco doesn't do that. Here, extremes exist side by side. Desert and snow, chaos and control, isolation and compression. To understand Morocco, you have to stop expecting continuity and start paying attention to contrast, where scale erases certainty. South of the Atlas Mountains, the land opens completely. This is the Sahara Desert. Here's the first shock. Distance becomes absolute. No landmarks, no reference points, just repetition. Movement here isn't guided by roads. It's guided by awareness. The dunes themselves shift constantly. What existed yesterday may be reshaped by morning. Wind rewrites the terrain without permission. A kilometer here feels longer than a kilometer anywhere else. Not because the distance changes, but because emptiness amplifies perception. The desert doesn't confuse you. It removes options. There's nowhere to hide from scale, nowhere to retreat from exposure. The land forces confrontation with vastness that most modern environments carefully avoid. When architecture blends into the land. At the edge of the desert stands something that looks temporary, but isn't. This is Benhadu. Here's what feels wrong. Buildings and earth are the same color. Walls look eroded even when intact. The structure feels grown, not built. The construction material is paise, compressed earth, straw, and water. Not imported, not manufactured, extracted directly from the ground beneath the structure. This creates a visual paradox. The fortress appears simultaneously ancient and new. Weathering doesn't degrade it. Weathering is part of its design language. Towers rise from hilltops without announcing themselves. Corners soften rather than sharpen. Entrances conceal rather than invite. The architecture doesn't resist the desert. It mimics the desert's texture, temperature response, and eventual return to earth. From certain angles, Benhadu vanishes entirely. The human intervention becomes indistinguishable from geological formation. That ambiguity is intentional. Survival here meant blending, not standing out. Then the country tightens suddenly, where density replaces space. Inside Fes Medina, expansion stopped centuries ago. Here's the shock. The city didn't spread, it folded inward. Paths narrow, turns stack, orientation dissolves. The Medina contains over 9,000 alleyways. Many are less than a meter wide. Some require walking single file. Sunlight enters at sharp angles or not at all. Temperature drops between streets and interior passages. Sound bounces unpredictably off uneven surfaces. Movement here isn't efficient, it's layered. Dead ends exist without signage. Routes overlap vertically through archways and tunnels. What appears to be a wall may conceal a doorway. The absence of cars isn't a preservation choice, it's a spatial impossibility. Every generation inherits the same spatial constraints. Innovation happens within those limits, not by exceeding them. This creates a place where medieval layout still governs modern movement, where GPS signals weaken or vanish entirely, where getting lost isn't failure, it's the default experience. If you're interested in places where geography and history still control movement, and modern systems don't flatten everything, subscribe. This channel explores destinations shaped by conditions, not convenience. Stakes reset. Why this matters? Because in Morocco, when conditions shift, the land doesn't adapt. People do. Where the land cuts itself open, east of the Atlas lies a sudden break. This is Jade's Gorge. Here's the shock. Flat land collapses into depth. No gradual descent, no warning. The gorge drops 300 meters in places, walls close within touching distance. Light reaches the canyon floor for limited hours. Roads cling to rock. Movement slows instantly. Engineers carve switchbacks directly into cliff faces. Guardrails appear intermittently or not at all. Falling rocks remain common. The route doesn't follow the easiest path. It follows the only possible path. This distinction matters. Travel here requires accepting that nature dictates terms. That convenience was never part of the design. That some places don't become easier. They simply become accessible enough. When the ocean resets the country. On the Atlantic edge sits Essaouira. Here's the contrast. After heat and compression, everything cools. Wind dominates. Light softens. Pace slows. The ocean doesn't decorate the city. It regulates it. Trade winds blow consistently from the northwest. Temperatures moderate year-round. Humidity increases without becoming oppressive. The Portuguese built fortifications here in the 1500s. Massive walls still absorb wave impact. Salter road stonework despite constant maintenance. Streets align with wind patterns, not aesthetic preferences. Buildings turn narrow faces toward ocean gusts. Windows minimize westward exposure. The Medina here feels different from Fes. Wider passages, lower buildings, better sightlines. Essaouira exists as proof that Morocco contains multiple operating systems. That geography rewrites cultural patterns. That the Atlantic edge functions under different terms than the Sahara edge, where elevation changes the rules. North of the desert, the land rises sharply. This is the high Atlas Mountains. Here's what feels unexpected. Snow exists close to sand. Cold replaces heat quickly. Isolation increases with height. Peaks exceed 4,000 meters. Some remain snow-capped into summer. Temperatures can drop 40 degrees Celsius from valley to summit. The country stacks climates instead of separating them. Travel here isn't horizontal, it's vertical. Villages cling to slopes at altitudes most countries would consider uninhabitable. Terraced agriculture defies reasonable farming logic. Water management requires channeling snowmelt through hand-built networks. Berber communities have occupied these elevations for millennia, not because the land is forgiving, because isolation provides protection. Modern highways now tunnel through mountains that used to require days to traverse, but tunnels don't eliminate the elevation. They hide it temporarily. Step outside, and altitude reasserts itself immediately. The mountains prove that Morocco's contradictions aren't just cultural or historical, they're geological. The same country that contains sea-level deserts also contains peaks that scrape alpine conditions. Distance between these extremes measures in hours, not days, where color defines identity. Northwest, beyond the Atlas, sits Chefchaouen. Here's the anomaly. An entire city painted blue. Not accent blue, not decorative blue, total blue. Walls, doorways, staircases, alleyways, all washed in shades of blue that shift with light and time of day. The practice began with Jewish refugees in the 1930s. Blue symbolized heaven and spirituality. The tradition persisted long after the original community departed. The blue isn't practical. It doesn't regulate temperature or deflect heat. It doesn't improve navigation. But it proves that Morocco contains places where aesthetic choice overrides environmental logic, where cultural practice becomes defining characteristic, where a single color decision creates international recognition. Why Morocco feels unsettling? Morocco doesn't smooth its contradictions. It preserves them. Desert next to snow. Silence next to density. Ancient layouts inside modern borders. Isolation beside movement. The country doesn't resolve tension. It contains it. Most nations develop toward consistency. Infrastructure standardizes. Regional differences diminish. Urban planning homogenizes. The result feels deliberately fragmented. Arriving in Morocco doesn't introduce you to one country. It introduces you to several countries sharing borders, government, and name, but little else. That's why Morocco feels intense, even when nothing dramatic is happening. The baseline is contrast. The default is juxtaposition. The ordinary experience involves encountering incompatible realities within compressed timeframes. Morocco isn't defined by one landscape or rhythm. It's defined by contrast without transition. Absolute desert. Earth-built cities. Compressed medinas. Sudden canyons. Mountains that rewrite climate. Oceans that reset the pace. Blue cities that defy explanation. Markets operating on medieval footprints. Roads carved into cliffs that shouldn't support roads. These places weren't shaped to feel consistent. They exist because Morocco never tried to become simple, never smoothed its edges to accommodate expectations, never sacrificed extremes for coherence. The country forces visitors to abandon assumptions about how places should function, about what belongs next to what. about how quickly conditions should change. Morocco operates as permanent reminder that geography dictates culture more than culture dictates geography. That some places resist simplification not through defiance, but through honest response to impossible conditions. If this video changed how you think about where destinations can function, subscribe. Because some of the most revealing places to visit aren't unified. They're deliberately unresolved. And Morocco might be the most unresolved country that still functions as one.